According to statistics, approximately every 10th person in the world is left-handed, and in our time this feature is no longer considered something abnormal. But still in Middle Ages, people who did everything with their left hand burned at the stake. The Inquisition accused left-handed and in witchcraft and aiding. The devil believed that left-handed people were associated with magic, and time for them does not flow from the past, the future, and vice versa in the end. And thanks to all this, the number of left-handers among the population at that time has been reduced quite a lot. By those who survived in those years were the most dexterous, resourceful, and adaptable individuals, masking their left-handedness or justifying it. And naturally, from their numbers, came out various outstanding scientists and simply workers and traders, later in a more modern world, left-handed, and tried to forcefully treat it wrong. It has long been believed that left-handedness, this is an anomaly and needs to get rid of it. Many endowed with this feature parents and teachers tried to retrain even as a child. Before the bottom of 1986 in the USSR, there was a special program for retraining left-handers. No one thought since kindergarten about the fact that retraining such children led to tragic consequences. Among them various neurotic and neurosis-like conditions, in particular depression, fears, stuttering, sleep disturbances, and appetite headaches, lethargy, and so on. Right up before epilepsy. After abandoning the retraining system in many countries, the number of left-handers statistics increased noticeably. But let's talk about what in general causes such differences in people. And also, what is the difference between the brains of right-handers and left-handers? What are the advantages and disadvantages of left-handedness? And who are ambidextrous people? Why people are divided into left-handers and right-handers? The question is why people are divided into left-handers and right-handers are actually not so simple as it seems. But there are several versions. Let's start by saying that the majority there are people. Lateral preferences are when behavior and movement control transmitted to only one hemisphere. The brain, in other words, laterally influences which hand, foot, ear, eye, and so on. We prefer to use due to the more trained one turns out to be one half the body, and to solve difficult tasks requiring accuracy and precision movements. People mostly use only one hand. In general, the brain is designed so the left half of the body is controlled by the right hemisphere, and the right half is the left one. Earlier, it was assumed that the left-hander was simply the activity of the hemispheres is inverted compared to right-handers. That is, it was believed that, for example, speech, the center, which in right-handed people is located in left hemisphere, left-handed people will be to the right. But it turned out that it's not like that. In left-handed people, the speech center can 70% have it anywhere, also located in the left hemisphere. 15% is entitled, and the remaining part, speech centers, are symmetrically distributed in both hemispheres also, to the right, root bones. Left-handedness can influence genes, but still overwhelming most people, regardless what is the leading hand of their parents. According to statistics, only 25 will be right-handed % of children who have both parents left-handers primarily operate with their left hand. This allows us to say that the choice of hand is significantly influenced by upbringing, environment, and other non-genetic factors. New research shows that the reason may not be related at all. Brain, for example, scientists from the Ruhr University in Germany. They discovered that the fetus begins, move your hands even before the head. The brain generally gets the opportunity to control these movements. The point is that the choice is dominant. Hands begin to form even before our birth preference for choosing right or left hands. Start to develop by 8 weeks. Pregnancy is 13 weeks. The fetus begins suck either the right or left big finger. And the most interesting thing is that the motor cortex brain that controls the limbs, all adults giving a signal in spinal cord at this stage, even with not related to it but at the same time, preference. All this can already be seen in the choice of hand. Says that it is not yet entirely clear what exactly leads to choice, dominant hand, and in order to we finally need to figure this out. Do a lot more research. Why are there fewer left-handers than right-handers? Presumably when our ancestors hominins began to walk on 2 limbs place, 4 number of left-handers and right-handers were the same but later something. The ratio of the rights of the neck has also changed, left-handers have increased significantly. But why this happened to explain this riddles? Many theories have been proposed, and the most common of them is this theory division of labor by the hemispheres of the brain. According to this theory, to universal right hand influenced nothing more than development, people's speeches. The thing is that, as we know most people's speech as well. Like the right side of the body, the left hemisphere responds to this view. Asymmetry is even more common than the right hand itself, and you can assume that as development progresses, language specialization of the left hemisphere, the right hand began to dominate simply and as a side effect. The theory is that the separation work on two hemispheres would lead to a decrease in its effectiveness. In addition, if all functions distributed to both hemispheres, then brain size and energy consumption would increase, which is impossible. Thus, the universal right hand can be just a side effect of the device brains of most of us. But to prove this hypothesis is difficult. Not even the fact that is generally possible, because ideally it is necessary. It would be possible to conduct a series of neurological tests on our ancestors for a long time dead. Moreover, this theory, although it can serve as a pretty good explanation, some reasons, however, has too many shortcomings. Left-handed animals. If we look at the animal world, then we will see that the terms left-handed and right-handed applicable not only to people. For example, almost all kangaroos belonging to the species, large red or giants, are left-handed of all kinds, situations, and for different tasks. They almost always use their left paw. Among parrots too, the majority are left-handed monkeys, for example. Standing on all fours, limbs are usually equally good. Enjoy them all. And the asymmetries of preference for any of them appears only when animals. You have to straighten up to do something. Make, however, right-handers and left-handers among primates. Equally, the dogs have a chance of filling their mouths with failure. The mouth is also approximately equal concerns. Cats, during research in different types of tasks, they preferred then the right, then the left paw. And according to the results, studies have shown that among cats more lefties, and among cats, by the way, people are also right-handed, have this feature. Statistically, left-handers are more likely to be men. But the reasons for this are definitely not installed, and everything else. Motor asymmetry can manifest itself in other ways. For example, some pigeons, when circling in the air, constantly chooses the direction right or left, were also carried out. Studies have shown that mice maze will turn right or left at, depending on your favorite. Side rats and toads behave in the same way. Turtles and fish, and even most earthworms. Advantages and disadvantages of left-handed people, left-handers, due to their unusualness, exist. Some advantages over right-handers. For example, studies show that lefties are statistically more common among successful athletes in such sports like boxing and fencing. Every fourth world boxing champion, professionals and amateurs, are left-handed, attributed to the fact that they are more likely in a better position in the ring, because right-handed people are used to fighting. Right-handed, easy to tatia, enemy associated with inhibition reactions, provides lefties in boxing competitive advantage in addition to success in sports. Lefties are less prone to rubbing and ulceration, and possibly able to recover faster after strokes due to less susceptibility. Brain to typical for this condition damage, and also functional left-handed brain organization may promote the development of creative abilities. It is believed that in creative professions related to art, music, and architecture, there are almost 10% more left-handed people than should have been. Average left-handed people are also less likely to have accidents, roads, and generally drive more carefully, and they do not do any better in highly competitive circumstances. However, they have known disadvantages, that left-handedness is more common among people with autism or schizophrenia, but not yet known. Is this a cause or an effect of these diseases? Also, the cerebral cortex, lefties, less able to suppress epileptic activity, and therefore among left-handed people, there is a much higher percentage epileptics than among people in general too. In addition, they are more often diagnosed with the syndrome restless legs and others motor sleep disorders. The unpleasant fact is that average life expectancy of left-handers slightly less than right-handed people. This may be due to increase the number of accidents that occur due to the fact that lefties forced to live in a world adapted to right-hand, who are ambidextrous people. Besides, left-handed and right-handed people exist, who are equally good at both. They are called right and left hand, ambidextrous. Amy is the most famous ambidextrous is Leonardo da Vinci. He drew and wrote with both hands and was talented. Music, mathematics, and engineering. Ambidexterity is most often generated skill, but it can be developed. This has been achieved on its own for years. Hard training. The same people who were born ambidextrous, they were able to maintain the ability Equal use of both hands is less than 1% population of the Earth, and for the parents of such children are most often not very good. The sign is that such people have some disadvantages. They get tired quickly, concentrate attention worse, and takes a long time to process incoming information from the outside. Ambidextrous children are susceptible hyperactivity. In addition, it is believed that they have difficulty learning language skills. Indicators of ambidexterity. When passing intelligence tests, thinking, arithmetic, and memory, usually slightly lower than for left-handed people or right-handed. But all this applies specifically to congenital, ambidextrous, and completely unclear. Do attempts to develop both hands lead to the same consequences for the brain as leads to innate ambidexterity? Some, on the contrary, are sure that this skill trains the brain. The fact remains clear that equal use of both hands helps in sports, art, and music, for example. Many athletes develop this skill as mandatory because without it, it is impossible to achieve anything, and sometimes it's simply not possible for them to possible. And by the way, statistics show that the older a person is, the greater he is prone to this phenomenon, though only because with age it is more difficult to cope with usual activities. With one hand, there are also the opposite of ambidextrous, sinister. And these people are bad at both hands, and I have no choice but resort to rather tedious method to develop any of the hands. It's quite difficult, and such work worthy of respect in general. Everything applies to left-handers and right-handers and ambidextrous people and so on, is not yet complete, studied, and understandable, so that scientists in the future is yet to come finally understand the reasons. All these phenomena as well as their influence on the brain and everyday life of people. If you liked it and want more of these, be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click on ring the bell so you don't miss new issues.